Uh, Boy, I thought you guys would make this easy on me
Okay.
by giving me something.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
let's see.
trying not to, just because
Yeah, sure.
what's important to me is not what's important to
Yeah,
you.
of course.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me see if I can
Okay.
find another. Liberty.
Let's do that.
There's one. There's a word. Okay,
All right.
liberty. So, um, okay. So let me think about that one. Um, so I think, okay, here. I think I'm starting to come up with a claim that I. So I think um, that it's important to human beings to experience some degree of self-determination, feeling like they are in control of their own life. And that's true not just for me, it is true for me, but I think it's true for human beings more generally.
So then I was going to alter the claim then just a little bit
Okay?
to say that it feels like that you have self-determination would change the claim to people have self-determination. Is it a universal claim? And it might not be. It might be just a claim for you.
I was thinking that it's important to people to have self-determination. That
It,
people, because some people have a greater degree of self-determination than others,
well, is
right?
self-determination a thing then?
I'm thinking it's a it's a it's it's something that people can have to a greater or lesser extent depending on their circumstances. So people who are in desperate situations, let's say because of their birth or because of, the whatever, they got hit by a hurricane or whatever, they don't have a very high degree of self-determination. They can make decisions, but the scope for decision making, their menu of options is very limited.
Well, maybe this will help me.
Yeah.
What do we mean by self-determination?
So it's funny, I just used the phrase menu of options
Uh-huh.
and uh, what do I mean by that? I mean, we understand the idea of a menu. When you go in, you sit down, you order from a menu. But what in life, when we talk about our menu of
We're
options,
talking about free choice?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So people
that's right.
so
Um,
are
and
you saying that some people have free choice and then some people don't?
no, I'm saying some people have more of it than others.
Some people
So
have more
everyone,
free choice.
yeah,
Okay.
everyone has some degree of free choice. I mean, unless they're, comatose or uh, in some kind of state where their capacity for free
Yeah.
choice is completely nullified. But, even if you're fully conscious and functional, but you're in a prison, well, you have some degree of free choice, but your choices are very limited, right? You
Okay.
can't, let's say, choose to travel to Tahiti if you're in the prison.
So
That's
free
not a choice you can make.
so free choice is a thing and some
Yeah.
people have more of it than others.
Yes.
Um
Yeah, that's a good way to articulate. Yeah.
on a scale from let's say 1 to 7,
Yeah.
how confident are you this belief is true and real?
I'm about as confident as you could be. If 7 is the highest degree of confidence, then I'm about as confident, then I'm a 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe this would be a good way to approach the belief then.
Yeah.
Uh, let's say, and I'm reminding of the belief that there that free. I'm reminded of the belief that free choice is a thing, and some people have a higher degree of it than others.
Yes.
And let's start at one end of the scale then. And let's say Timmy,
Yeah.
Timmy's sitting next to you,
Yeah.
and Timmy says, you know what, Ram, we don't have any free choice. I don't think free choice is just, that's just not a thing. It might appear that it's so, people may believe it to a degree or not,
Yeah.
but I think free choice isn't a thing. And
Yeah.
I'm a third person. I just want to know what's true and real. With me hearing you and Timmy talk, would there be a way for me to figure out what's real in this case, that just starting at first base,
Yeah.
that free choice is a thing?
Here's what well, I think you'd have to listen to the reasons that Timmy and I each gave for our point of view.
What would you
So,
tell Timmy?
so what I would tell Timmy is, um, think about your own experience, Timmy, of making a decision. Right? When you make a decision, it could be a really simple decision, like you're just sitting down in a restaurant and ordering from a menu, right? And it's someone else is paying, so you're not even limited by budget, right? When you're making a decision like that, in that moment, you experience your freedom of choice directly. You experience it while you're making the decision. Now, Timmy could say, of course, oh, but that's some kind of illusion that you're suffering.
Yeah, so you're
Right.
saying that it's the case because it seems like it's the case.
That's part of the reason. That's
Uh-huh.
part of the reason. Um, and then if Timmy says, oh, but it seems that way because of some illusion,
Or he says it doesn't seem that way to me. I don't know.
oh, okay, well then I'm going to ask Timmy a different question.
Okay.
Okay, if he says, "Oh, it doesn't feel to me like I'm making a free choice,"
Yeah.
even when I'm sitting down in the restaurant deciding between the pizza and the fried chicken, it still doesn't feel like I'm making a free choice. It feels like it's determined what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I just don't know. I'm going to wait and find out what I'm
Right.
going to do.
Timmy says it may feel like it, but in the end, when the decision actually comes online,
Yeah.
it's a mystery to me.
Yeah.
It just happens. And I don't really can explain it. It just pops into existence, and that's my experience of how I make choices.
Okay,
And
so then my next move with Timmy will be to ask him, okay, well, Timmy, suppose you're standing in line and let's say you're, holding a Coke and someone pushes you from behind
gotcha.
and you spill your Coke all
Yeah.
over your nice clothes
Yeah.
and you fall down, you get hurt,
Yeah.
and now there are two possible situations, right? You could turn around and
Uh-huh.
see that the person behind you was just having a grand mal seizure,
Right.
right? And they're just like flailing their body
I see.
wildly. Okay, now you're gonna feel like, oh, you're gonna forget about your nice clothes and you're gonna try to figure out what can you do to help the person with the grand mal seizure.
Or you get upset.
Right. Or yeah, get upset. Or now if you turn around and you see the person just like pointing at you and laughing,
Right. That's a different.
you're going to react differently.
Sure.
Okay, but now if that person doesn't have any free choice,
Gotcha.
why are you going to react differently to them based
Right.
on whether they have the grand mal seizure or whether they're pointing at you and laughing?
So I'm wondering if Timmy in this case,
Yeah.
I'm really trying to, get down to how we know what we know, and I understand. Thank you. I think I get a better sense of how you know that free choice is a thing. And let's say Timmy says, "All right, so the person who had the grand mal seizure,
Yeah.
that we're not going to get upset at him because that was the state of his brain at the time. His brain was doing something that that his brain does.
Yeah.
And the other person, what if he said that that person is doing what the state of brain suggests that that person does? They
Right.
both have their brain states, and sure, one person's having a seizure and one person's not, but in the end, it's just the brain's doing what it does based on what the brain does.
Right. Right. And if Timmy says, look, as far as I'm concerned, the person who pushed me just to amuse themselves and see me spill my Coke all over my nice clothes and see me lay on the ground injured,
Yeah.
that person, I don't blame them any more than I blame the person with the grand mal seizure, right? I mean, both of them had the same impact on me,
Yeah, in the
but
sense that I guess Timmy's saying that that person didn't have a choice to do what that person did, and the non-seizure person didn't have a choice what that person did.
right, if
Right.
Timmy says that,
Yeah.
right, I mean, I'll tell you right now, I'll be really surprised if Timmy says that.
Okay.
Um, but but then I would have to try something different because it seems obvious to me that the person who just wanted to amuse themselves by pushing me to see me spill my Coke all over my nice clothes and see me get injured and
Yeah.
fall, that person is someone I should resent, whereas the person who had the grand mal seizure is not someone I should resent. Like, that feels obvious to me, but if Timmy doesn't see that as obvious, then I'm going to have to think of something different. And
Because I guess I'm just going to, and I'm just, I'm taking what you're telling me, the
yeah,
primary reasons, and you're telling me, you gave me an example of a grand mal seizure,
yeah,
and I'm just trying to uh, understand figure out the quality of the reason of that,
yeah,
and if that is a reliable way to know that a person has free choice or not free choice.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, Let me ask you this then.
yeah,
Um, if and if you were to take Timmy's side for a second
yeah.
and just argue his point, what would be the point you would use to say, yeah, this person has, this person doesn't have free will, or the other person has a free will? No one
Oh,
has
if
it.
I had to take Timmy's
Take Timmy's
side,
side. What would
I
be
mean,
his?
so I can think of something to say on Timmy's behalf,
Okay,
but I don't, I don't, I don't think it's right.
go ahead.
So I'd have to think long and hard to figure out something to say on Timmy's behalf that I found convincing. But, but here's something I could say on Timmy's behalf. Look,
Yeah,
what human behavior is the result of chemical interactions that
yeah,
happen in the body,
uh-huh,
right? Neurons transmitting
yeah,
chemicals down the neural pathway and down to our
yeah. So
muscles,
where does
and
choice come in
yeah.
there? Where
So
does choice fit in there?
right. So I think what Timmy could do is challenge my point of view by asking exactly how does choice fit in if the neurochemistry
Right.
determines human behavior.
Because there seems like there's some extra special sauce somewhere
Yeah,
that we're not fitting in.
right,
And if we could figure out where that comes in,
right,
then we would have that would strengthen the
yeah,
confidence of your belief probably.
right. So
Right.
I think that's something Timmy could say. And then I would, I mean, here's how I would resist that.
Okay.
I would say, uh, you're looking for free choice in the wrong place. And let me say what I mean by
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So suppose I want to find out where where is the real boundary between Ukraine and Russia? Or
Uh-huh.
where is the real boundary between Sudan and South Sudan, or between
Okay.
Israel and Palestine?
Yeah.
And so what I do is I go and I look at the land really carefully, like under I use surveyor's tools, and I study the rocks and the soil, and I'm looking for, but But of course, like I'm looking in the wrong place. Like I could study the rocks and the soil on the border of Ukraine and Russia for the next 100 years,
Right.
and it's not going to tell me where the real national boundary is, because the national boundary is it's something that uh, it's not marked in the soil. Like
Is a
it's not a
boundary a real thing or is it an artifice?
well, it's some kind of artifact. It's some kind of feature of human practices or laws or right. It's something that emerges from. I mean, I don't know exactly how national boundaries get set, but they get set through human interaction, right? Whoa. Oh, sorry, I was distracted by the noise.
I know, me too.
So they get set through human interaction, and um, and you're not going to find them by looking real hard at the soil. Okay, and
Okay.
similarly,
If
I'm inclined to think that free
I
choice
see.
is something that uh, is a feature of human practices, and just looking hard in our brains
Pardon our
for where the
brains.
free choice is, you're not going to find it there. Um,
Now,
just
this is
yeah.
occurring to
So
me, and if you have time,
sure.
if I could do, and this may flame out, but why not? I'm going to think of a thought experiment
Okay.
that Timmy could say to you. And I'm not, and this is Timmy. I'm not saying what I
Yeah.
believe, and hopefully you don't know what I believe. I'm just trying to understand the reasons behind your belief.
Yeah.
So let's say Timmy says he wants you to think of um, a movie, any movie,
Okay.
and so this is where free will presumably would come in. You could select any
Yeah. I
movie
could
out of the
choose.
range of movies, and let's say you pick a movie. What? So pick a movie.
That's really funny that you said that. Okay. So when you said that,
Uh huh.
the first movie that came to my mind. I
Okay.
mean, I'm just telling you the first movie that came to my mind,
Yes.
and it's a movie called A Clockwork Orange.
The first movie.
Um,
Uh huh.
the first movie that came to my mind is an old movie called A Clockwork Orange, and the reason that movie came to my mind
Mm-hmm.
is because it's a movie about this gang of thugs, um, and one of them is caught by the police and is subject to this new treatment for criminal behavior, where the treatment just involves like operant conditioning, like where you
Yeah.
basically teach them to have like a really
Behavioral
aversive,
reactions. Uh
yeah,
huh.
behavior. And so it's basically like a kind of social engineering that's dystopian.
So what was
So
the
yeah.
thing that popped in? What was the thing that popped into your head? You seem to
So
be clear on that.
yeah, so that movie popped into my head because we were just talking about free choice,
Yeah.
and in that movie, there's um, the criminal justice system treats criminals like they don't have free choice. It treats criminals like the point of criminal justice is just to re-engineer a criminal's brain so that they stop committing crimes.
Now, how did you choose for that to
Right.
pop into your head?
Exactly. No. That's right. I saw that. That's where you were going with
Uh
that
huh.
question, because yeah, it didn't feel to me like I was choosing. It felt to me like that.
Yeah.
Of course. Now wait a second. That movie did pop into my head. I didn't choose for that movie to pop into my head,
Okay.
right? But
Okay.
what I did choose to do
Uh huh.
is tell you about the first movie that popped into my head,
How did you
rather than
choose to tell me the first movie that popped into your head?
so. Let me. This isn't a direct answer to your question,
Okay.
but let me tell you why I describe myself as choosing.
Okay.
Um, Suppose the first movie that had popped into my head
Uh huh.
was something that I would have been really embarrassed about admitting.
Okay.
You know, something that I wouldn't want to know. whatever, like some silly kids movie or Disney movie or whatever, right? I wouldn't want to admit that that was the first movie that popped into my head.
How,
I think what I would have done was picked a different movie in talking to you rather than admit that. So
in that case,
yeah.
how did you choose that you would not tell me an embarrassing movie, yet you would tell me the first other movie that would pop into your head? How did you make that choice?
Okay. So to some extent here, do some I'm going to do some hypothesizing.
Please.
I think what happened is this. A movie popped into my head, and then I thought to myself, is that something that's going to be too embarrassing for me to admit?
Yeah.
And then I thought, no, I can admit that. And so
How did
that's
you choose that first movie that popped into your head?
Oh, I didn't choose. So no, I agree. I agree with you. I didn't choose for that movie to pop into my head. That's not something I chose.
Are you saying
What
that you didn't have free choice in that situation?
I didn't have free choice over what movie was going to pop into my head,
Is that
but I
what, but
did.
isn't that what we're talking about?
But I did have free choice over what movie I was going to tell you about.
Okay.
Right? So there's a difference between what pops into my head where
Okay.
I don't have free choice.
How did you decide what you were and weren't going to tell me?
Yeah, and so that's I think what I did was
Uh-huh.
when a movie popped into my head, I asked myself, okay, can I admit that to
Yeah, I
I'm
was wondering,
sorry,
but that
yeah,
dialogue that you had,
yeah,
can I admit that? And all like,
yeah. And
how
then
did you choose to have that dialogue come up into your head? Like I was,
oh, I see. I see.
yeah, right,
In
right,
other words, okay, good, good.
right,
So
right,
here's
right.
what I'll say.
Yeah.
I don't think I chose to have that dialogue come up into my head. I think that dialogue came up into my head as a matter of habit because I've been habituated
Are you saying you
to,
didn't have a choice because it was a matter of habit?
yeah, I'm saying I didn't have a
Okay.
choice about having that dialogue,
Okay.
about having that internal dialogue. But while I was having the dialogue,
Okay.
I had a choice about whether or not to tell you about what movie had popped into my head.
And how?
So I didn't have a choice about having the dialogue, right? The dialogue was just that's the sort of thing I do. I'm
Yeah.
before I, you know, start before I admit things to people, I'll ask myself, is that an embarrassing thing to admit? Should I not be admitting that?
Right.
Right? And so I'll have that, and that's a matter of habit. That's, you know, because the way I've been raised or whatever I have. But then when I'm having that dialogue, I I have there's a moment of free choice where I choose, okay, this is something I can say because I'm not embarrassed by this. Or this is something I can't say because I am embarrassed by this.
So
And
you
that's,
could say the movie
yeah,
because you weren't embarrassed by it.
yeah.
How how did it come about that you knew whether you were embarrassed or not embarrassed by that movie? How did you know that? And I don't mean to be,
No, 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 no,
yeah, yeah,
no.
yeah. I don't mean to
It's a
be.
good
I'm not
question.
trying to grill you,
No,
really.
no, no,
I'm
no.
trying to get
It's a good
to the
question.
basis of how you know
Yeah,
what you know.
it's a good question. And what I am inclined to say is that um, I will ask myself, I will sort of try things on in my imagination.
Okay.
And just like
Did you
when,
choose your imagination?
no,
Okay.
no, I didn't choose my imagination. Just like I don't choose the tools that there are in my house. Like there are some tools in my
So
house.
they were baked
My,
in.
my,
Yeah.
you know, I don't remember, maybe my wife or I don't remember who got them for me. But
Yeah.
there's some tools in my house. I
Yeah,
don't
sure.
choose the tools in my house, but I can use the tools in my house to do little home improvement projects that I'm capable of, right? So similarly, I don't choose my imagination,
Yeah.
but I will use my imagination to try to decide whether to say something or not to say something.
So at the very beginning of this
Yeah,
conversation, I said, how confident are you in this belief?
yeah.
And you said, what number did you
I,
say?
I said the maximum.
7.
Yeah,
We have this long talk.
yeah.
Are we still at the same number? Are you higher? You're lower? Where do you
Well,
think you?
I can't be higher than
Well,
maximum.
we
Yeah,
can say you can be.
yeah.
What we think, yeah.
I would say, where am I? I'm either at the same place or lower.
Okay.
I'm either at the same place or lower.
Should put as a number if you were lower. I'm just trying to gauge your confidence level on the belief. And there's no right answer, of course.
Maybe 6.5.
Okay.
I'd love to chat more, but I really do have to go.
Yeah. No, this is it.
I think I've spent more than
No, I
10
know.
minutes,
I appreciate
but
you. Appreciate you talking with me.
but
Really.
anyhow, that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
really
thank you.
interesting.
I appreciate
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Wow, so you got some shifting.
Yeah. That's good. It's been a while since I've done it.
Yeah.
Shifting if it needed to be shifted.
How do you feel about it?
I feel good. I thought intrinsically I find that an interesting claim. 'Cause,
Mhm.
I've heard these claims before.
Self-determination, free will, that kind
Yeah.
of. Uh-huh.
And so that's something I just have thought about personally and like to think about. And so it was actually a little bit easier to do SC on this person because I find it, and I don't know, tell me what you think. I think it's more difficult for me to do SE on somebody when I intrinsically agree with the claim on the get-go. It's hard for me to come up with the right questions because I'm bound by my own biases
Mm-hmm.
and my own way to see the world. And if someone gives me a claim that's not jiving with my claim, and this is not to make a judgment of whose claim is correct.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying.
You're talking about when you don't
It's just
necessarily
if
agree.
I don't
Yeah.
happen to agree with the claim,
Uh-huh.
then I'm just better at it, and just because I've thought about it, and hopefully I've thought about the side that my IL's talking, his epistemology, and of course I know my epistemology, and I'm not trying to debate this person. I want to
Right.
make that clear.
Mm-hmm.
But it just makes it easier because I've just happened to think about it from another point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that? Or
Yeah.
yeah,
And that comes up a lot. Like, how do the questions change when we agree
yeah.
versus disagree?
And if he said that we don't have free choice, I think it'd just be more difficult for me. I think I could do it. I think I could do it, but I think it'd be more difficult for me to probably get out of the gate.
Uh-huh.
And but I think he was very thoughtful, and he really had a really interesting things to say, and I really appreciated what he said. And I thought he he was very honest about what he knew and what he didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
What I really appreciate about the IL is he didn't need to adjust his confidence, but he did.
Yeah.
And to me, the sign of a healthy mind is someone who adjusts their confidence in a belief when the confidence needs to be adjusted.
Yeah.
That is maybe in my mind the hallmark of a healthy mind, to change your belief when it needs to be changed.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that was
I don't
great.
know. Yeah, that's cool.
So how do you manage the situation when you do agree?
Yeah, so that makes it harder to do, and I'm aware of that. But I really try to take my biases out of it, and in the end, the easiest way to do that is, and I didn't do it so much on this discussion, but generally speaking, the best way to do it is really to forget the claim. Not, you hear the belief, you hear the primary reason or reasons for the belief, and the best you can do is kind of jettison the belief and then just talk about reasons, talk about how you know what you proclaim to know. And because the belief is really unimportant, it's how you arrive at beliefs in general that in the end shape who you are,
Whether you have the choice or not.
whether you have choice or not. But this is interesting because this is, you know, maybe I don't have a choice and I'm changing someone's mind, and maybe he's changing my mind, and maybe it's all just happening, just a process.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Uh, if he had remained at 7, I was prepared to ask you if the scale had more intervals.
Yeah, we've touched that before. You like more of an interval. We've talked about that before, and I like the 7 scale because it's a Likert scale, but
Yeah,
I understand to
I,
do a 100 scale
I like the
and
7 scale
yeah,
too.
yeah.
I'm just curious if, let's say he
And that's
stayed at
why I
7.
allowed him to go higher if he wanted
Sure,
to.
yeah.
Yeah,
Let's say he stayed at 7.
yeah,
Um, or let's say he said he was still at 7,
yeah,
and then if based on his body language and all that, if you had said, okay, well, if you had started at 100, because going from 100 to 90 is still at 7, right? If
yes.
my math
It gives you
is,
more degrees of freedom to move around. Yeah,
yeah,
hmm
and
I get
if
it.
you think, of course, this is all hypothetical because he did shift, but if he hadn't shifted from 7 to 7, and he was given the opportunity to go from 100 to less than 100, do you think he would have?
Yeah, I think if you're willing to go to 7 to 6.5, you're willing to go from 7 to 98. I
But
would.
if he had stayed at 7,
Oh yeah, right. It would have necessitated me to uh, do a follow-up question about uh, are we saying that the 7 before is the strength that the 7 was
yeah,
after?
I
And
was just curious
no,
about that.
I hear what you're saying, and I think it's just I just it's I don't know, it's just how I've done it, and
Yeah,
mostly because of my background,
sure, yeah,
psychology, everything's on a 7 scale, which
yeah.
people find odd, but it's the
And
case.
I'm not asking you
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
change.
No, I know,
I'm just
Yeah,
curious
yeah, I know.
if yeah,
Right.
how it would be different. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good question. I appreciate that question, and I will reflect on that. Because right, in the end, I don't. The scale isn't as important as the ability to gauge the movement on the scale.
uh-huh.
So I agree with that.
One question I may have asked,
Go ahead.
and you may have touched on this. Um, if he, if we did not have self determination, is there a way to find out? And
Yeah, the yes, the falsification question. I didn't ask a falsification question. That's good. I could
should
have
we
done
be
that.
7 out of 7 if we have no way to tell if we were mistaken?
Right. What are we
Yeah,
talking about? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yes, we're talking about, um, and that was probably in my mind. I'm thinking, yeah, it's not, it's not that kind of question,
uh-huh.
just because I know, but it's,
Because his main reason
yeah,
was it seemed this way, or he felt
it
like it
seemed
was
this
this
way.
way, right?
But I was trying to so it seemed this way, it felt this way. He had two reasons, I think. He said it seemed this way, it felt this way, but then he was giving to more of a materialistic, mechanical reason. Because he talked about the guy who had the seizures, and that's something about the state of his neurons functioning in his brain.
Right.
And then this other person who didn't have seizures, and we're talking about the state of his neurons functioning in his brain.
Uh-huh.
And I'm trying to understand. So there's two things he was getting at there. There's kind of a materialistic explanation, which he was kind of arguing in the sense for no free choice, I thought. And then there was how it seems.
Mm-hmm.
And and then I was trying to see if he could, if he, and because of the seeming question, let me back this up. Because of the seeming question, he would tell me how he made a choice, and then I would back it up to one step, because it says like, it seems this way because of this.
Yeah.
All right, well, how did you get to this? Well, it seems this way because of this.
Uh-huh.
How did you get to that?
It seems
It
all the way
seems that
down.
I'm trying to follow his seeming and to see if that is a reliable way to know that that is true.
Yeah.
And it may be. It may be a reliable way to know that that claim is true.
Uh-huh.
But
That
but
yeah, it may have been beneficial to just straight up and ask that question. Why is because it seems
I was
a
having to
certain way.
discover it for himself.
Yeah, why is that
Yeah.
a good reason
Yeah.
to be that confident in something?
Right. Right. Say it again. That last thing you said.
Just like asking the question directly, like, why is it seems this way a good reason to be that confident in something?
Yes, the way it seems.
Why is that a good reason?
Yeah, and if Timmy's sitting next to you and it says it seems, I think I kind of alluded to that, but it
Yeah,
says
yeah,
it seems that it's not to him, and where am I? Where am I
yeah.
left to decide what's true in this case?
Is Timmy using a good reason when he uses that reason to
Yeah,
come to the opposite belief?
right. Yeah, and I do try to third person it as much as possible. And I was taking kind of a leap when I went to this thought experiment. I was wondering if this was going to be
Uh-huh.
if I was going to crash on this one, but
No,
no, I thought it was interesting. So
that's great.
yeah.
It's so cool to watch you do SE in person.
Yeah, same with you. And you're stellar, man. You are know what you're doing. And I just want to say that I know I've said
Pulled
this
another one.
before, but David, you are on the forefront of how we do claims and the hidden claims, and now how you're doing the hidden vote. And I think that that is uh, truly good stuff, important stuff, and I wish more people would pay attention to what you're doing and how you're doing it. Sometimes I get down about how things are going in the world right now, but I see what you're doing and I see how minds can be changed when they need to be changed. And so I appreciate that very much.
Well, thank you. And thanks for your support too.
Yeah, man.
Hearing stuff like that kind of makes it all worth it.
You're doing important stuff. I think so.
Cool.